Welcome back to the New York Pest Management Association YouTube channel. Today we are joined by a special guest, Mark Davidson. Mark, how are you doing, buddy?
Good, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. You are going to be we're doing a November 5th Upstate Conference, and you're going to be one of the presenters. We want to talk a little bit about you, a little bit about your business, what you're going to be presenting on and whatnot. I got some questions all lined up for you. But before we get into all that, I want to know first, for people that may not know, how did you get into pest control? Where'd you come from?
Well, the short answer is that I'm second generation. My father started a company in 1989, and I was sort of raised in it. And I guess officially I started when I was 18 and decided I needed gas money. But from there, it just sort of took off, put me through college and grad school, and helped me work in that industry, build a career, and bring me here today.
Wow. So you start with, I need gas money, and it turns into a whole career long adventure. That's pretty awesome.
Hey, I mean, it starts that way, but once you realize the opportunity you have in an industry like this, you don't let it go.
Yeah, sure. So you're not currently an operator today. What are you doing today in the industry?
Well, now I'm consulting. I'm the principal consultant for DBS, or Davidson Business Services. And what we do is we help pest management, lawn care, and other service industries. We help those owners find the expertise they need to help them grow their businesses. So they would reach out to us, and we'd find out exactly what their needs are, and then hook them up with the expert through the DBS network to help them get efficient results.
Okay, so you mentioned network. Is this more than just you? What kind of services is this?
Well, it starts with me, and then we have a bunch of collaborators within our network, people who specialize. So we have someone who specializes in operations, another one in legal, someone in IT, finance. So really, instead of being a bunch of jack of all trades who could probably help everybody, we wanted to come together as experts who could definitely help everybody with specific needs.
Gotcha. So is there a specific client size that you is really a sweet spot for you, or is it like anybody from the biggest things to the littlest one-man operations? Who's like your target there?
Really, we spend a lot of our time working with companies between 750,000 and 10 million, which I know it's a pretty widespread, but we've worked with companies smaller than that and significantly larger.
Okay. And I'm just curious on this one. How do you meet most of the clients? Is it through networking? Is it at events like you speak at a training seminar and then someone comes up to you afterwards? How do you find your clients?
Networking is probably the number one. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years now. So I've made some friends. I've asked for introductions to people I didn't already know. Going to events and speaking is probably the easiest way, but just going to events and getting to know people who are there. And that includes seeing industry friends and current clients or past clients, and catching up with them always leads to getting to meet somebody new and shake their hand and get to know them. And doing that, I think, is best way, almost entirely because you have to have a certain amount of trust to bring in a consultant to help you grow your business. And it's a lot easier to decide if that's myself or somebody else from DBS based upon an in-person conversation you've had, maybe even in an informal setting, than it is to decide based on something like a Facebook ad.
Gotcha. So now if I'm talking to someone, what kinds of things might they tell me that would be like, hey, I got to send them over to talk to Mark? Like, are there pain points that I might hear and be like, oh, this is going to be a good referral? What kinds of things might they say?
The number one reason that we get brought in is because an owner does not know what their exit strategy is going to be. And sometimes that's a pretty simple plan, and we can finish, a few conversations and everybody has a pretty good idea of what to do. Sometimes that could be multiple years long of setting up various projects to successfully help that person get to whatever the next step is, whether that's selling the business and retiring, or maybe handing it off to another generation. There's many different options that they can take advantage of, but we're going to start with getting to know them and then kind of work our way from there.
Yeah. Now, you personally were in a second generation situation, right? Is that my understanding there? So
That's right.
You probably have some experience. And now this is just off on a tangent a little bit. Were there things in that sort of like transition or being a second generation person coming in that you would think back now and go, geez, I should have done this differently, or we could have done this better? Are there things when you look at it now?
Yes, but that's always going to be the case.
Mm,
Hindsight is 2020. So
yeah.
anytime you finish something and look back at it, you go, "Oh, I probably could have changed this or tweaked that." I'm not going to say that I'm perfect or we did everything so well that I have nothing that I would ever go back and change. I don't regret
Yeah.
anything about how we did our handoff over time. But there's definitely things I've learned, and there's new developments in technology and
Mm,
leadership strategies that could be implemented with today's handoffs from one generation to the other to make things a lot easier.
yeah. Well, I have a 12-year-old that we might need to talk about
Okay,
at some point. um,
it's never too early to start planning.
That's right. Oh, she's already planning. Don't get me wrong. She's already planning.
Great.
She's got us with like one foot in the grave already. She's chomping at the bit. Um, yeah, it's funny because she'll actually go off and she wants to hear about every interview that we do for prospective employees, and she'll be like, she thinks she needs to have the final approval on every hiring
Mhm.
decision because she might have to manage them one day. So we're in that sort of situation right now.
Sounds like a natural born leader.
Yeah, yeah, or cult leader. I don't know. So do you find a lot of small, mid-sized businesses coming to natural plateau points or stalling points where they're trying to get across something that's holding them back? Are there sort of natural stopping points for people?
Well, absolutely.
Hmm.
And that's not just true with pest management. I'd like to point that out because that's a question I get. Is this unique? It's really not. Growing any business, there's going to be points where you sort of level out and you're doing okay. And then in order to grow, it's time to either make an investment or take on a new challenge. And so you're going to go back up again by taking the bull by the horn, so to speak. If you didn't want to do either of those things, then you would just stay on that plateau. And I guess at that point, you'd have a lifestyle company.
So do you have a favorite KPI? Do you have something that is like, hey, this is the number. If I'm going to look at somebody's business, I want to know this number, profit per something or whatever.
Mhm. I do, and it's probably not what most people think. My
Okay.
favorite is the callback rate on technicians.
Really?
Yep,
Interesting.
it's very telling. There is almost always a correlation between your callback rate and your best salespeople in the operations department. So your techs with the lowest callback rate usually have the highest reviews, and they also have the most sales, either that whether that be dollar value or number of opportunities sold. On top of that, if you go back, those techs who have the lower callback rate are usually utilized better. They're routed better. They are more efficient in their time. They're all around, I don't want to say a better technician per se, but they are set up for success.
Hmm.
And when you look at those numbers, you go, okay, well, the guy with the higher callback rate, he or she is not necessarily a bad person. They're not bad at their job. They're just not doing as well as everybody else. It tells you, okay, what are all the different things that I can tweak? Well, their sales are actually pretty good. And this, that, the other thing. But you go back and you say, oh, well, they're spending a lot of time at stops. Let me find out why that is. You dive into that, and suddenly you've turned your, number 10 tech into your number 2 tech.
Wow. Now, is that something that most people are already tracking before they talk to you, or is that something that you'll kind of guide them to be like, hey, this is something we need to be looking at?
I think just about everybody tracks the callback rate. I would hope so. I mean, it can severely impact your bottom line, your dollars per hour on all of your techs. Um, I find that a lot of people are usually tracking it already, but they don't necessarily go to the extent, as many levels deep as I just described, and maybe even further. There are plenty of people who do, but a lot of the ones that I've worked with through DBS, that's a newer territory.
Oh, wow, neat. Okay, we got to ask the flip side. What's the most overrated KPI? What number are we looking at that we don't need to be as like paying much attention to?
One I get from a lot of people is utilizing all of the wonderful technology we have for our phone systems and judging customer service reps by the duration of their calls.
Hmm.
If the average duration of the call is higher or lower than the average for the company overall, that's not necessarily an indicator of really anything. You could just have somebody who's got a great relationship with their clients and doesn't need to spend a lot of time on the phone, or conversely, they might have a great relationship with their clients and want to spend a lot of time on the phone with them. You could also look at that as somebody who has a hard time with getting clients what they need or answering their questions, or it could be somebody who gets a lot of opportunities to answer questions because they seem knowledgeable. There's really no way to know for sure why the numbers fall the way they do when it comes to call duration to your customer service rep until you go in and either listen to the calls or sit right next to them and participate.
Wow. So the call duration is telling you something. It just may not be what everyone is assuming. Like we're simplifying sort of that. Is that what I'm understanding? We're looking at that call duration and just making one snap decision when it really could be a whole host of different attributions, I guess.
Right. A lot of times I've been told that, oh, well, this tells me how attentive my customer service reps are. Well, not necessarily. If you don't know who they picked up on the phone, they could have, a dozen 10-second calls on their log from yesterday, but maybe they were all robocalls and you're getting some kind of spam and they just happen to be the one to answer all of them. You don't actually know until you dive into who all of them. I wouldn't make any broad decisions. You could use it to find trends, though, that might point you in a direction. So if you've got somebody who's consistently far below the average, that might be somebody you want to look into. Why are they always the ones who are having those lower durations? How are the conversations going? And then where does that lead to? I would wager that those are the people who have the fewest successful attempts at scheduling or rescheduling, have the fewest successful inside sales opportunities, and so on.
Wow. Now, these KPIs that we look at for evaluating our systems, our businesses are one big system. Are they pretty standard boilerplate across all of the businesses? Or do you find that certain businesses will have certain KPIs that mean more to them based on how that business is put together?
Absolutely. The standardization of KPIs between one pest management and another, for example, just choosing from the same industry, a lot of that comes down to the fact that we're all using similar softwares that give us the same numbers. And so what can we make our decisions on? Well, the information that the software provides us. And we're all looking at the same type of numbers, the same kind of reports. Well, then that's what we're going to base our KPIs on.
Okay. So it's more about the ease of the data's availability than it is necessarily like its actual usefulness necessarily inside the business. The information you may actually need might be harder to get, and we're just kind of all falling into the same, hey, it tells me this, I might as well look at that percentage.
Oh, absolutely. I don't believe there's a technician productivity report for to give you a true productivity number per day by tech in any of the major CRMs, and that's not a dig at any of them. Just means you have to do a little bit of math and maybe run 2 or 3 reports depending on which one you're using. But to figure out what percentage of that technician's time they're utilized for on actually producing per day is a very powerful number to know. But I'm not aware of any software that can do that for you.
Yeah, we do some of that internally here, and it's like 2 or 3 little reports that you have to pick and choose and cherry pick the pieces from, and then sort of put it together in your own Excel spreadsheet, and have it kick out what makes sense to our business. And I'm sure if somebody else did this, it wouldn't make sense to their business because they operate differently. So, yeah.
Exactly. They may have things that do or don't contribute to that time. They may pay on production versus hourly, and all those things are going to affect what those numbers are going to look like.
Yeah. Okay. So since you said it, production versus hourly, what's the deal there? How many people are on production? How many people are hourly? Are we majority one way or the other as an industry?
Boy, that's a hard one to say because I'm not that sure. There's some very large companies out there that lean one way or the other, and they probably skew the average. But it seems to be pretty split down the middle. There's a lot of companies that utilize both depending upon the position. I was always a big proponent of hourly until I started getting introduced to other business owners within the industry and getting beyond just my own little geographic bubble and realized, okay, there's advantages here. And really, it depends upon the environment that you create as a business owner or as a manager, along with the culture that your clients are buying into and what they're going to expect. Because those 2 things, I think, primarily are going to dictate whether hourly or the production based is going to be the best option for you.
Wow. Yeah, great answer. Now, this kind of leads into a little bit about what your presentation is going to be about on November 5th. You're doing a thing on business systems. Big overarching question, I guess. How good are we as pest control operators of implementing systems in our businesses? Are we putting systems in place and nurturing them and maintaining them? Or are we just kind of throwing things at the wall and being like, this is kind of how we do it and go out there and get her done, boys?
Oh boy, as an industry, I think we're doing a great job. As
Mm.
individuals, I think we could all use improvement, myself included.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there an area where we're falling down, most often you're having to go in and tweak someone's business?
I think the biggest, I guess, stumbling block for many people in this industry is that they forget that their business is not a collection of systems, it's one interconnected system. And every time you dive down one level, that's another system. And it may be working within an environment where there is another system, and we can get into all the different various nested situations here where that could be the case. But for a lot of people forget that they have one business, which is one big system, and then you can break it down to its component parts. They seem to go, well, I've got 10 departments, therefore I have 10 systems, and I've got to run all 10 of them. And that's so much work, and they overwhelm themselves when in reality, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. So it's more like a system web where you pull one thread and it interplays with everything else in unexpected ways. That's interesting.
Well,
So
absolutely. I mean, if you were to have a technician who, I don't know, had to take a month off with no notice, that wouldn't just affect the schedule and the operations. That would affect customer service. That would affect sales. That would affect human resources. They're all connected in that way. Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. I learned that lesson the hard way years and years ago. We had a form, and at the bottom of the form there was this little checkbox, and it was to
Mhm.
enter into the pesticide reporting law for New York State. Each time we get our usage, and we have to report it to the state at the end of the year. This very state specific sort of report. And there was this little checkbox down there, and I wanted to change something about that form. So I was like, I need a little extra space. I'm going to get rid of this checkbox. I don't think we really even ever use it. I don't ever use it, whatever. I change it. I
Mhm.
print off 1,000 of these forms. The next day, as soon as these go into the field, I get the lady at the office calls me up and says, "Where did my checkbox go?" And she had been using it the whole time. It was integral to her system, and I just didn't even think to like sort of check, hey, how is this being used, and is this something that I can change? So that was my introduction to the web of interconnected systems in our business.
Yes, and you know what? We're going to talk about it during the presentation. That's a wonderful example of a knowledge gap within a business where there's a procedure on one side, and somebody else either makes a change or is ignorant of it and does something, and it causes a buildup within the business, and things don't get done as a result.
Yeah.
Luckily, you found out the next day, and only cost you 1,000 copies.
That's right. Well, and
Yeah.
I have never lived it down. She still works here to this day, and I've never. Anytime I want to change a form, I have to hear about this.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty good stuff. So what are some of the takeaways we could expect for the attendees at this event from your presentation? What kind of things could we bring back with us to our businesses?
Hopefully, it's that you already have systems in place, even if you think you don't. And we'll go into that, I guess, in more detail during the presentation. That's sort of an overarching theme. But I think the most important thing to take away is I've already got the systems because I'm already doing things in a certain way, and I follow the same procedure each time, whether you think about it that way or not. And the reason why we want to do that is because everything in life is a system. I mean, how you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is a system. You do it the same way, just about every time, I would assume. Or if you make a change, you usually follow that new path forward, and you've now edited it in your brain, right, what the procedures are. We want to get it through to everybody that you've already got them, even ones that you wouldn't have considered to be a system within your business, probably are. And if you formalize them and become aware of them, it's going to make keeping them up to date easier. And you're going to find all these different places where the flow of information actually breaks and things get lost.
Mm.
And you'll be able to become more the fire inspector than the fireman, everybody's favorite analogy, right? So you can stop a problem before it becomes serious.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, if people want to get a hold of you before or after that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can go to our website, dbs-usa.com, and fill out the form at the bottom. Or they are welcome to reach out to me directly through our LinkedIn page, where they can send an email to Mark, M-A-R-K, at dbs-usa.com.
Awesome, Mark. So November 5th up in Syracuse, New York, we're having the Upstate Conference, and we will see you there. And hopefully we'll have a whole bunch of people that can ask you some questions.
Sounds good. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me today, Andy.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.